Sports Talk in the Burgh. I'm your host, Josh Woodman, and my talented and opinionated panelists are on my left, Jordan Warwick, on the middle, Amir Keesley, and on his right, Cam Wickline. We got a packed show today, so let's get into it. The Steelers got their first win of the season Monday night against the Browns. What was a gutsy win for Pittsburgh was largely overshadowed by the injury to Browns star running back Nick Chubb, who was running the show before Steelers safety Minkah Fitzpatrick took him out early in the second quarter. I just want to know, Amir, was Minkah's hit on Chubb dirty?
I think Minkah's hit was not dirty at all. It was, unfortunately, a football play. But just because you can't tackle Nick Chubb high unless you want to get ran over. We've seen this with Nick Chubb and Minkah about a year or two ago where he just got ran over. So you have to tackle him down low, and unfortunately, he was at the wrong place at the wrong time. And I just got to feel bad for the guy.
I mean, it is a very unfortunate injury, but it's just a fact of football. People get hurt. It's extremely unfortunate, especially someone who is so big to the game like Nick Chubb. But things happen. It was an awkward angle. I'd be willing to bet if Minkah had a chance to make the tackle again, he would do it a little differently. But things happen. I didn't ever think it was a dirty play, not when it first happened, even still after people were saying that it might have been.
Yeah, I totally agree with you guys. It's a routine football play that you have to make on a guy like Nick Chubb, who is one of the stronger running backs in the NFL, one of the harder players to bring down. And I think this is a fact that people forget a lot, is that Minkah Fitzpatrick also got hurt during that hit. So I don't think it's something dirty, because I don't think he would try to also inflict himself too.
Yeah, and whenever you were watching it, it wasn't like he just shot himself right at his knee either. It was more of just whenever he started to go down after the original tackler had hit him, Minkah just started to come in. Essentially, you see how people gang tackle. Then again, just wrong place, wrong time. Things happen. It is unfortunate, but dirty isn't the word I would use to describe it either.
100% agree.
Well, the Steelers' defense came up big in the matchup. Pass rushers Alex Highsmith and T.J. Watt in particular showed up. Highsmith getting a pick six in the first play of the game, with Watt later getting his fourth sack of the year, also breaking the Steelers' franchise sack record, then gathering a fumble and taking it in for the winning touchdown. With Watt's records, is it time we asked ourselves, is T.J. Watt the best pass rusher in the league, Jordan?
I think he's undoubtedly the best pass rusher in the league, and he's shown it not only this season, but in the past seasons as well. 2 years ago, he broke the sack record by playing only 15 games. He is by far the best edge rusher because he's not only just the edge, he can get sacks, force fumbles, get picks, deflections. He's a all-around great player and definitely the best edge rusher in football.
Agreed. T.J. Watt is the man. That's exactly why they paid him. Like you said, he broke the sack record. As soon as he came back from being injured last year, he made an impact. So I personally think that T.J. is definitely the best player in the league right now, and he will be for a very long time.
See, one of the things I told my roommate, Nate Fennell, who's one of the producers of the show, is that some people throw around the term game wrecker too much. T.J. Watt is a game wrecker, though. He is the true definition of it, and you can see it in the fact that the Steelers have a losing record whenever he doesn't play, and are actually one of the best teams in the league when he does play. It's because he doesn't just get the sacks. We were watching the game, and TJ realized he wasn't going to get to quarterback, threw his hands up, got a pass deflection, very next play, right place, right time after an Alex Highsmith strip sack, scores a touchdown. It's not just, so you can make an argument that Myles Garrett has the better bend or something like that and might be a better pure pass rusher, but in terms of purely defensive ability, no one can top T.J. Watt. He's too all around. He does absolutely everything you could ever want. And I really, in my opinion, especially with how Aaron Donald's getting a little older, I would have to give it to T.J. Watt for being the best defensive player in the league.
Agreed. T.J. is just amazing. Like, if we could have about 3 more T.J. Watts on the same team, we would be amazing. So, yeah.
While on one side of the ball, the Steelers look stellar, the other side not so much. Pittsburgh's offense continued to look lackluster, with Kenny Pickett looking not like himself, and the O-line and the run game unable to get anything going. I just want to know, who is to blame for the Steelers' offensive struggles, Cam?
You know, it is really easy to point out poor play, poor coaching with Matt Canada. And don't get me wrong, Matt Canada is far from the answer at the offensive coordinator position. That being said, I think everyone needs to take a real hard look at the quarterback position. Kenny Pickett has not just looked not good, not looked even bad. Kenny Pickett has looked absolutely horrible these first 2 games. He's missing throws that you or I could make. Not to say that we're better quarterbacks than Kenny Pickett, because that would just be silly. But he's missing the simple routine throws, a 5-yard slant right over the middle that you have to be able to hit as a junior high quarterback. It almost makes me think that there's something more wrong here, something a little deeper that we're not seeing, because he has looked absolutely horrible, and he's made mistakes that you would get reamed out for in junior high.
I couldn't agree with you more. Kenny Pickett's execution has been terrible, god awful. I personally believe that if he could execute, this team would be great. But just look at him. He looks confused out there. He looks lost. He didn't look like that same Kenny Pickett we saw at the end of last year, guys. I just hate to see it.
Well, it is hard to look like that same Kenny Pickett when your offensive coordinator is constantly putting you in bad positions after bad positions after bad positions. His Matt Canada play calling is so basic and so predictable. I know exactly what he's doing it before he's doing it. I remember when we were all watching the game, we were all calling out before what he was going to do before he did it. He's not putting any of the players in positions to make plays at all. He is boring. He's not inspiring with anything. I don't think it's Kenny's fault. He has some fault to blame, but overall, it's Matt Canada.
Without piling on, his offensive line is just horrible. Omar Khan spent a lot of time and money and effort into going into the offensive line this offseason, and it doesn't look like it's paying off. Last year, he brought in James Daniels on a big contract. He hasn't been good. Isaac Sayamali was supposed to be one of the best. He hasn't looked good, and Broderick Jones, for some reason, is still sitting on the bench.
Well, as we wrap up a wild second week of football, I want to know, Jordan, who's had the most surprising start to the season?
To be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I thought this team was going to be absolutely putrid. I thought they were going to be number 1 in the race for Caleb Williams, but now through 2 weeks, they have looked like a good team. Baker Mayfield has looked like his old self, and this was something that I didn't expect. I didn't expect them to get wins like they have been doing. I didn't expect Mike Evans to look as good as he has been looking. This team has been the most surprising to me so far.
With me, I'm going to go with a long shot here, but the New Orleans Saints. They surprised me even with the absence of Alvin Kamara. Like, Alvin Kamara is going to be out for, I believe, like 4 games, and they're doing well without him, believe it or not. And Derek Carr, he's showing that he still belongs in the league, even though he's not up to like the standard he was about a few years ago when he had his injury. So
see, you guys went in a positive direction. Who's won more games than you guys were expecting to? What is wrong with the Cincinnati Bengals?
putrid.
Bro, I know that Joe Burrow hurt his calf, and one of the things that I actually thought was going to happen, because a lot of times you always hear about those lower leg injuries always lingering, whether it's the hamstrings, whether it's the calf like Joe Burrow. Those are the injuries that always seem to linger throughout the season. The players never get 100% healthy, and they don't perform 100%. That being said, they perform still half decent. I didn't expect Joe Burrow to fall off a cliff. He's looked horrible, which means the wide receivers aren't doing much of anything. No passing game, which is absolutely doing nothing for the running game. This offense looks like it can't score. These Bengals are in trouble.
Well, one of the reasons why Joe Burrow is such a good quarterback is his ability to be able to move around in the pocket, and I think that calf strain has really hurt him a lot.
I agree.
Keeping up with that, I want to know, what are your personal Week 2 takeaways? I'll start with Amir, but I just want to say mine. I agree. That Bengals one was atrocious. Their offense has looked putrid. Amir?
My Week 2 takeaway is that running backs need to be valued more. We've seen about 3 running backs go out with injuries. Saquon Barkley, Javonte Williams, and Nick Chubb. It's horrible to see what's happening to the running backs now. Like, I believe they need to be valued more, just like our wide receivers and quarterbacks. Like, they just need to be paid more. They need to be cared for more by their offensive lines and coaches and stuff. So we should see where that goes.
This is an argument that's been argued for a while now, but there were a couple roughing the passer penalties that had just started to feel normal, and for the life of me, I cannot understand why. I think ever since they changed that rule, it is ruining the game, and people are starting to accept it now. But I'm sorry, if I see another defensive lineman get pushed into the quarterback by the offensive lineman, he gracefully touches his toe, and he gets a roughing the passer call because he hit him below the knee. That's a joke. It's something that happened a few years ago. People are seeming to just become okay with it. I don't think we can let that happen. I think it's a rule that is personally ruining the NFL.
I agree.
I also agree with that too. I think roughing a passer is really not what it should be. I think, okay, it's good to protect the quarterback. We're protecting them too much now. But my week 2 takeaway is I think the Packers have done it again. Even though they lost last week, Jordan Love has looked like a franchise quarterback. And it's just amazing to me how the Packers have been able to find franchise quarterback after franchise quarterback after franchise quarterback. And with week 1, with Jordan Love having basically no receivers, he was able to go out there and put on a performance and then do it again this weekend. I think Jordan Love is a real deal.
I think for everyone's sake, we're all hoping the Packers didn't do it again. We can't handle 3 in a row.
It was a big weekend in college football with big rivalry matches late Saturday night. Pitt lost in the backyard brawl to West Virginia, and Deion Sanders' Colorado needing overtime to beat rival Colorado State after a war of words with the other head coach leading up to this game. So I'm going to ask you, Cam, what is the best rivalry in college football?
Okay, so I may be a little biased. I am a huge Michigan Wolverines fan. That being said, I don't even think it's close. It is Michigan versus Ohio State, and even more so in the last few years. Michigan, in the last 2 matchups, Ohio State has been ranked number 2 in the country both times, and Michigan has been ranked 5th and 3rd. How much better does it get than that? It's 2 of the best teams in the country that have been playing each other for over 100 years. There is pure hatred between those 2 teams. No other way to describe it. Pure hatred. They are actively trying to kill each other. Half the time they forget they're playing football. It is the best rivalry in college football. For my money, it's the best rivalry in all of sports.
Well, Cam, I have to agree with you. I think that the Michigan versus Ohio State rivalry is absolutely the best rivalry in college football, and not just because it's one fueled by a actual state rivalry between Michigan and Ohio, but it's just so much hatred that's felt between both of those teams and the fan base. I absolutely love it.
I'm going to go with an unpopular opinion here. I do agree with your guys' take to an extent, but I'm going to have to go with the Army-Navy game. Every single year, regardless of what you say, they might not have the best product on the field, but it's entertaining football. You got the 2 branches of the U.S. military going against each other for the ultimate bragging rights. You can't get better than that, guys.
See, here's my thing. There's a lot of respect between the 2 teams when they play that game, which is cool and all. Brother in arms, I totally get it. You got to respect what they're doing for their country, and it's just a cool thing to watch the military go up against each other. That being said, if I want to watch a rivalry game, I want 2 teams that want to rip each other's faces off, and that is exactly what you get between Michigan and Ohio State. It's a great game to watch every single year. It's going to be another great one this year, I guarantee it.
I don't exactly know what happened to Pitt and Penn State, but that would be my personal choice. Anyway, baseball's regular season is wrapping up, and while some teams are prepping for the playoffs, others are preparing for a long offseason. Injured superstar Shohei Ohtani is one of those players, having likely reached the end of his tenure with the Angels. What's next for maybe the most desirable free agent in baseball history, Amir?
Personally, I'm going to go with the Seattle Mariners. Shohei Ohtani stated when he came from Japan that he wanted to play for a West Coast team. So I am going to go with the Seattle Mariners. The Seattle Mariners already have a young, good core. They got Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh, Mitch Haniger. They got everybody. So I believe that with the addition of Shohei Ohtani, it'll be great. And even on the pitching side, they got Luis Castillo and a few other great pitchers. Adding Shohei Ohtani would further bolster that pitching staff and create a powerhouse in the West.
See, me personally, I think he's going to go to the San Diego Padres. And my first reason is because the same thing you said, of that he wants to stay on the West Coast. But they are also a young team with a lot of young stars that disappointed this season. And if you can have the best player in baseball come to your team, I think that automatically makes him a contender.
All right, I figured I'd let you guys talk, and then I'd give the right answer. He's going to the Dodgers. The Dodgers were 8th in payroll this year, and everyone knows that the Dodgers are a team that likes to spend. 8th in payroll is simply too low for the Dodgers. They were expecting to give Shohei a lot of money. He's not going to go to the Mariners. The Mariners simply don't have the money. The Padres don't either. They've already paid 4 superstars. They're going to have to give Juan Soto, they owe a lot of people a lot of money. Even Jake Cronenworth, a solid role player, is going to be doing some good money here. They're not going to be able to afford Shohei Ohtani, especially because of the market that they're in. Despite the fact that they shoot way out of their pockets, they're in the bottom third of TV deals in the league. They're not going to be able to afford him. He's definitely not going to the Mariners. He he only can go to about 5 teams that could afford him, and that is the Dodgers. The Giants might be able to get him. He would be able to go to the Red Sox. He would be able to go to the Yankees, and he would be able to go to the Mets. You guys said he wants to play West Coast ball. I agree. He said that quite a lot. So I think the Dodgers are the easy choice.
Respect. I just don't think the Mets will pull the trigger on that. They can't. They can afford him, but I just don't think it'll fit in
I
there.
definitely see him wearing Dodger blue next year.
Well, money this, money that. I'm sure Shohei will be willing to take a hometown discount to come to Pittsburgh. Anyway, also wrapping up the regular season is the WNBA. Jordan, with the playoffs about to begin, who's your picks for the finals this year?
For me, it has to be the Las Vegas Aces. They have 4 All-Stars on their team. They finished with a league best 34-6 record. They easily swept the Chicago Sky, who just 2 years ago won the WNBA championship. I just think that this year they're far and away the best team in the league, and I feel like they have all the tools to get the job done.
Yeah, I agree. The regular season, they proved that they were an extremely good team. And Aja Wilson, she's special. 3rd in the league in points per game, 2nd in the league in rebounds per game. And then don't even try and take a shot on her. She's 1st in the league in blocks per game. She is a bona fide superstar, which is something it's exactly something you need to take your team to a to a WNBA championship. Plus, you said fantastic players all around her. Even calling them role players would just be wrong. It's stars on top of stars with a superstar. Aces are just insane.
I'm going to have to go with the New York Liberty. Sabrina Ionescu and Brianna Stewart. They're both studs on that team. And I think they can, prove a point and change the narrative of, the Las Vegas Aces going somewhere. So I personally believe that the New York Liberty will win the WNBA Finals this year.
No, I think it has to be the Aces. The Aces, they proved in the regular season they were just simply too good. Don't get me wrong, sports are sports and anything can happen. But the Aces proved that they are just too good. They're essentially just an all-star team that they're trotting out there every game.
And they also won it last year, so I think it's going to be an easy back-to-back season for them.
I don't think Sabrina will make it that easy. Come on, she's a stud. If you watch her, look, she was playing with Kobe. Well, wasn't playing with Kobe, but she was there. She was there.
All right, we are going to go to break here. When we come back, we're going to go over some more RMU stuff. Stay tuned for more sports talk in the Burgh. Casey. This thing has been screeching. I don't know why. Huh?
30. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to Go Sports Center. That's CHD. Women's basketball.
That's a good commercial.
Feel the beat of nature at a park or forest near you. Find a forest and music inspired by nature at discovertheforest.org.
Welcome back to Sports Talk in the Burgh. It's homecoming weekend here at RMU, which means homecoming games. The big one being football hosting Lynchburg on Saturday. There's been some bright spots in the last couple of games for the Colonials, but still a record of 1-2. Amir, what does the football team have to do to turn around before the game Saturday?
As I said, defense wins championships, which I don't think RMU would do, but, defense wins championships. And at Youngstown State, they let up almost 600 total yards of offense for the Penguins. So in order for RMU to turn things around, they need to play defense. They need to play lights-out defense to try to help our offense not feel pressured. Like, our offense shouldn't have to feel like they need to go out and, get points just to, make up for what the defense slacked on. So that's what I feel like the team needs to do.
Yeah,
play better defense.
I completely agree with you. Throughout 3 games this year, they've given up 37 points per game. Now, I understand that the first game they played was against an FBS opponent in Air Force. But the craziest thing is that if you take out that Air Force game, their points per game goes up. They got tallywhacked against Youngstown State. The defense simply can't give up 48 points a game if you're expecting to win, especially because the offense this year has been pretty good. One of the big issues was the fact they were having trouble running the ball. They started to figure that out in the second half against Youngstown State. The passing game with Anthony Chickett and Noah Robinson has obviously been pretty good. If they can figure this defense out a little bit, this team's got a shot.
I think they have to limit their penalties. Last week they had 10 penalties that cost them 71 yards. This is completely unacceptable. But this week they face a D2 school in Lynchburg, and this is a game that they should be able to win.
Also on the agenda is an away trip to Milwaukee. The women's team, who are riding off high, coming off a statement 5-1 win in soccer to conference opponent Green Bay. With that being said, Cam, who is the women's soccer's biggest threat in conference play?
I mean, I really do think it's going to have to be the Horizon, or I do think it's going to have to be Milwaukee. We saw the exact same thing last year with the women's soccer team. Last year they got off to the best start in program history, even though they've bested that this year. Still, they were off to a very good start last year. They got in Horizon League play, and essentially the sky started falling. They just wasn't even the same team. They're going to have to make sure that doesn't happen. So although I said Milwaukee's going to be their biggest threat, in all honesty, I think the biggest threat to the Colonials is themselves. They have to keep playing consistent soccer like they are right now. And if they have to make sure what happened last year doesn't happen again this year, if they can do that, this team's got a chance at raising some hardware at the end of the year.
I completely agree. You cannot beat yourself. That's the worst thing that could possibly happen. But I'm about to go with Cleveland State. So I did a little research, and the Colonials are 2-7 against Cleveland State in their entire history of facing each other. So they only have 2 wins, and I'm just hoping that they could kind of reverse that and start winning more against Cleveland State. So that's one thing. That's one team I think we should look out for.
I agree with Cam that it's Milwaukee. They're the best team in the Horizon League right now with a record of 5-2-2 and have a conference record of 2-0. I think they are automatically the number one thing that the Colonials has to overtake this year.
Well, in the midst of all these exciting games, we've had some great performances. I want to know each of your RMU Athletes of the Week, starting with you, Amir.
Athlete of the Week is Malia Kearns. Malia Kearns had 2 shots, 2 goals, and 2 shots on goals in the 5-1 win versus Green Bay. That is my Athlete of the Week.
For me, I think it's pretty easy. I think it has to be Noah Robinson. Even though the Colonials lost last week, he has showed out. He showed out with 9 receptions for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's been very impressive this season. I think he will continue to impress.
See, you guys kind of irritate me because I was the last one to choose my Athlete of the Week. I get that, but the women's soccer team went 1-1 this week, and the big game that they won, Malia Kearns was obviously the player of the game. Men's soccer didn't win a game this week. Volleyball, who's struggled recently. So all that was really left was football, and I was like, oh, Noah Robinson's been really good. But I guess I'll just go with the guy that's been throwing the ball, Anthony Chickett. He went for 171 and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's just been playing really good, clean, efficient football. Not necessarily – I don't know if he's necessarily been winning the Colonials the game, but last year, quarterbacks were losing the Colonials the games a lot, and that's been a big difference for the Colonials this year. If he can keep playing clean football, this team's going to be able to go somewhere.
Hey, the chicken special right there, man. That play back against St. Francis, that was amazing. That's probably one of the best plays I've seen this year from the Colonials. It was amazing.
Well, in my opinion, I think the RMU Athlete of the Week is Anthony Chickett. And I think going back to what we were asking about, what does football have to do to win? Let Chickett cook. And on that note, we're going to go to commercial. We'll be right back for the guys' final takes.
If you love them enough to suck the snot out of their nose at 4 a.m., then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Today, we face an unprecedented crisis. Tens of millions of refugees have been forced from their homes. But you can make a difference. Turn disruption and despair to hope and opportunity. Even small amounts make a big difference. Provide shelter, support, or jobs in your community. The more we understand, the greater sense of belonging we create. Act now. Visit supportcrisisrelief.org.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
Welcome back to Sports Talk in the Burgh. Now I'm going to send it over to Cam for his final take. Take it away, Cam.
We might be in for a college football season for the ages. Anyone who has paid attention to the sport in the last decade knows that the national championship was a 2 to 4 team race every year, with everyone else going for college or for conference championships at most. Whether it was Saban's Bama, Sweeney's Clemson, or in the past couple years, Smart's Georgia, the number one, everything has been very, very known what is going to happen. Now, this year's Georgia team goes down to South Carolina, goes down 14-3 in half. Michigan stayed tight with Bowling Green through the first half. Florida State, in all honesty, probably should have lost to Boston College. And Texas was tied through 3 quarters against Wyoming. Bama stinks. Ohio State has only looked good once through 3 games. And everyone's favorite sweetheart, Colorado, went into double OT against a dreadful Colorado State team. All of this is to say that we don't have a team in the upper echelon of teams this year. That means there is much more variety. There's truly 15 to 20 teams that could win the national championship this year, and college football could not be better off for it.
The Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pittsburgh Pirates will be competing in the playoffs by the 2025 season. The Pirates are in a position to compete prospect-wise because of Mitch Keller and the pitching staff. They look to improve and retain the form they had at the beginning of the 2023 season. Next year, the Pirates should be able to gain traction in the NL if the front office makes the correct moves this offseason in free agency. They should call up prospects like Paul Skeens and Jackson Wolf to help bolster our pitching staff next year. And obviously, the team is looking to bring back Pittsburgh fan favorite Andrew McCutchen and hopefully bring in more players next year. And next year is also a huge year for Derek Shelton and his staff. In order to be successful, the coaching staff needs to be more aggressive with coaching, and the team must go back to the form they played in April.
The Pittsburgh Steelers might be in a historic franchise, sure, and they might be traditional, but these ways are not working. They are old and outdated. The past 5 Super Bowl champions have done things that the Steelers do not do. Like they make big moves, they fire coaches, they make moves outside of the organization, and these are just things that the Steelers do not do anymore. They need to start doing it to be a Super Bowl team. Thank you guys for joining us on Sports Talk in the Burgh. Have a good